been calls to defund our organized church. Have you heard these? Yes? Okay. There are calls to defund our church, right? Withhold tithe, no more tithe to any conference, mission, or field. What happens to the teacher? What happens to the missionary? What happens to the publicist? What happens to the pastor? What happens to the ability of the whole thing to function? It would collapse into disorder. If you boycott Walmart and you get enough people to not shop at Walmart, what happens to Walmart? It goes bankrupt, right? So this is a very serious thing, and angels do not place their endorsement upon irregularity, disorganization, and disorder. If you have everybody send in rice and beans instead of tithe so that the conference cannot pay their mortgage. You all heard about the call, right, to send in rice and beans? Okay, you all heard that, right? It's one of the big issues of our day. You know, send in a protest tithe. What happens to you as an employer? Let's just say you have a company, and your company has employees, and you rely on people purchasing your goods and services with money so that you can pay payroll for your employees, right? That's how the real world works. And instead of companies coming to you and buying your goods and services with money, they say, we'll give you rice and beans this month. Can you buy anything at Walmart in rice and beans? Can you buy a pack of gum at Walmart in rice and beans? No. The General Conference and the conferences does not want your rice and beans. They want money so that they can pay their employees, their mortgages, their bills, so that they can carry out the Lord's work on this earth. That's the truth. And so if you boycott a company, it collapses into disorder and disorganization, and the angels are not allowed to bless irregularity, disorganization, and disorder. I have a friend who's a grade 8 teacher, and at some point in time, I may send him this message, because I'm going to talk about him right now for the next 2 minutes or so. He's a guy who works in a conference school. And for the last 20 years, he has been teaching kids Bible and history and whatever else he teaches. And he's been helping to lead kids to Christ. And he's one of the unsung heroes. He doesn't have a YouTube channel. Nobody knows who he is. If I said his name right now, you'd all just completely draw a blank. But you know who knows who he is? The kids who have been in his class. Because he made a difference in their lives. Because he showed them something about who Jesus is. And he dedicated his life for that purpose, and he works at a conference school. And if everybody stops paying tithe, that conference school can't function. If you send in pinto beans to the conference, that school can't work, can't function, it can't pay its employees. And the whole thing collapses into disorder and disorganization, and this is the very thing that Satan wants. He wants to weaken our forces. He wants to destroy courage. He wants to prevent successful action, and he wants irregularity, disorganization, and disorder. Again, third testimonies. God has devised a plan by which all may give as he has prospered them. Notice who devised the plan. There's this narrative that the idea of tithes and offerings originated with human beings. It originated with conference people. It originated with the leaders of the church. That's not the case at all. According to the spirit of prophecy, God devised the plan by which all could give as he prospered them. Now, some people will say, well, the leaders aren't doing what they're supposed to do. The church leaders, they're in apostasy. We're withholding our tithe. What happens to the grade 8 teacher if enough people do that? His ministry ends. His school closes. And so you can fight cancer by not breathing. You want to kill your cancer? You cannot breathe, right? If you have cancer, you cannot breathe. Will your cancer die? Of course it will. And you'll die too, right? You can fight cancer by not eating, because eating is what feeds cancer. You can say, well, I want to kill my cancer, so I'm not going to eat any food. I have cancer in my foot, so I'm just not going to eat for the next 3 years. And your cancer would die, and you would die too. And you cannot make a solid, compellable case that it is justified in our denomination to withhold tithes and offerings from the organized body just because some leader over here is not faithful. It punishes the faithful people in the field. And I'm not saying that anybody in this room is doing that, but this is one of the major issues of our day in this church, and we need to talk about it. The simplicity of the plan of systematic benevolence does not detract from its merits, but extols the wisdom of God in its arrangement. Again, God created it. Satan well knows that success can only attend order and harmonious action. He deceives even the professed people of God and makes them believe that order and discipline are enemies to spirituality, that the only safety for them is to let each pursue his own course. Send your tithe wherever you so please. This independent ministry, that person on YouTube who's your favorite speaker, but not to the conference. The tithe does not belong to you. It belongs to God.